Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 46 of the HaskinCast Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Haskin. Very excited that you're listening, and I appreciate you taking the time to check out the show. We've got a great guest I have a great guest for you today, Tatiana Davidov, who I met when I was living in California at one of the red carpet events that I went to. She was a photographer there, which is a pretty big deal. That process is pretty crazy. We talk about that in the show. And I think Summer and I talked about that when she was on as well. It's a very specific process, and it's very quick, and there's flashes going on everywhere, and you're trying to listen to people talk to you and shout, and then you're trying to listen to the photographer direct you. And it's a lot going on. And so it's a pretty big deal to be one of the photographers at those events, to be trusted to take pictures of things that people are going to want to remember, just like it would be your wedding photographer. But these are people that, have publicists. Certain things have to be approved. So it's a pretty sticky situation, I would imagine, and for a photographer anyway. And so we talk a little bit about that. But she's not just a photographer. She's a writer. And she's written some very lovely things. She's had some of her photographs published, put into magazines. Same with her photographs. She's done really well there. And she also does PR for artists. She's very selective about who she takes on, but she's got some really good ones. And we talk about that as well during the show. So what's going on here? Let's see. In Nevada, we are warming up to summer. All of a sudden, we went from hoodies to please don't make me wear clothes in about 3 days. And it's really weird now doing the podcast. I hadn't really thought that much about it because I started the podcast in October, and it's been, reasonably cool and seasonable the whole time. And now, of course, it's getting hot. So like right now, it's after 9 o'clock when I'm recording this, because it's just kind of cooled down to the point where I could turn off the fans and the air and all that. And then I made the mistake of starting a pot of coffee right before I sat down to record this. And of course, then I had to shut the door because of the coffee pot percolating. And now it's even warmer in here. So obviously, I'm not thinking in the best mode of efficiency tonight, but that's okay. I think I do the majority of the time, or at least I'd like to think so. So coming up now, this being episode 46, we're rounding out to our first kind of milestone that people pick, which is episode 50. I kind of figured I would make it this far, but at the same point, it's like, holy cow, I'm coming up on 50 episodes and people are still listening, which is awesome. And more people are listening every week, which is great. Definitely appreciate people investing in it and taking a chance, because you're trading anything else you could be listening to, you're trading to listen to this. And that means the world to me. So thank you very much. Glad that it's been interesting, or at least maybe you're just seeing the bio line for this episode and going, hey, I want to check that out. That guest sounds interesting. Or, oh, I really like this thing that they were involved in. I want to hear about it. So whatever brought you here, wherever you're sitting here listening to me babble on, I really appreciate it. And thank you very much. Thanks for all the feedback and the emails and everything that come in. If you have any questions, any comments, feel free to write me anytime, scott@scotthaskin.com. I handle that exclusively. There's no one, no secretary or assistant or anybody that manages that inbox. So that's all me, 100% me on the replies, and I just do them as I can get to them. So got a lot of great things coming up. I'm in talks with a lot of different people to do episodes. A lot of it really comes down to scheduling. When I recorded Tatiana yesterday, I actually recorded another friend who he and I have been trying to coordinate for, I want to say, at least 3 months of a time where we were both available at the same time. That's been a real challenge, is really the scheduling. And, it works out when it works out. And when it doesn't, I just think it's not meant to be at that time, and try to find somebody who's available, who's on my list. Because I have a very long list of people I would love to have on the show. It really comes down a lot of times to scheduling. And sometimes people have to cancel at the last minute because they got a pickup gig. And I totally respect that. But I'm kind of left with, now what do I do? And that was the case last week when I had 2 guests that were supposed to come on, and both of them had to cancel at the last minute. And I thought, this is a perfect time to warm up with the Stranger Things idea that I had. So that was why that episode was released last week. But it's also good timing because it's kind of a warm up for the 4th of July. We're now a month away from the release of the show. I'm curious to see, I think, like I said, if I remember right, I think they just released the whole show. And of course, then you binge watch it in like a day and a half. And then you feel empty for another 364 days. Or 363 days, you just go with it, and then there'll be other things that'll come out in the fall that'll kind of fill up that time. I don't really watch a lot of shows. Most of the shows that I've watched have ended, and I'm doing the best I can not to pick up anything else. When I'm doing marketing or when I'm doing, my budgeting or my books for the month, I'll tend to throw something on, but I don't really watch it necessarily. It's just kind of on and fills up the room from silence. And, I don't like to listen to music when I'm working on a music project. So I tend to just put on some YouTube or something on Netflix and just kind of let it go. But anyway, so that was kind of a fun thing to do. And I hope you guys enjoy the shows coming up that I'll be doing. If I am right and they release the whole series at once, I'm going to try to be as quick as I can with the episodes. I'm also working on the Haunted Holidays album. I've hit another snag with the Addicted album that is actually going to be a problem for a couple of other projects. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with that. And once I do that, then I'll be able to go back on track with those albums. The artwork for Addicted is done. Kelly did an absolutely amazing job. I love it. It's beautiful. Cannot wait to share that with you. But I want to do that closer to, the build up for the release date for that. In the meantime, the Haunted Holidays 3 album is mostly done. I'm just adding in some layering and sound effects to thicken things up a bit. Because I think when I did it, I was happy with it at the time. And then when I went back and listened to it, I thought it's too thin sounding. It needs a little bit more and it needs to be a little more interesting because I realized trying to work around the dialogue, I was a bit repetitive on this particular album. So I'm going to be reworking a few things, but it will definitely be released in October. All the voice lines and everything are recorded and edited in position where I want them to be. So now I'm just kind of building up the musical side of things, and then we'll go on to the mixing and mastering phase, hopefully sometime in July. Before we start the show, I've got an actually pretty interesting concert summer schedule this year. I'm not really big into going to concerts because I don't like to be away for 3 or 4 hours not working in the studio. But, there's some bands that are coming through that I really want to see. And I've got Asia with Yes and Carl Palmer's ELP experience. Really, really looking forward to seeing that. I saw Carl a couple years ago here with that band, and they were phenomenal. Just a 3-piece, not even a keyboard player. And but the two guys definitely compensate for the lack of keyboards. Also going to see Uriah Heep. We'll be playing with Judas Priest. That will be awesome. I've never seen Judas Priest. Not a huge fan of Judas Priest. Nothing against him. I've just never really gotten into him. I remember I think it was the first show or one of the first shows that he did as a solo artist when he had his band Fight after he had left Judas Priest, Rob Halford. And my friend Travis, who was on the show earlier, his band opened for them in Denver. So that was kind of neat to go see Travis play and open for kind of a known act. That was a pretty big deal. That's always a big deal. But when you're in your early 20s, that's super cool. So there's those two shows. And then Lost 80s Live is going to be coming back in September to Nevada. There are 16 bands this year. They play just off of Fremont Street at this wonderful outdoor arena. And some of the bands will be returning. I know that Missing Persons will be back. A Flock of Seagulls will be back. Berlin is not listed this year, which is a bit of a disappointment, but Tommy Two-Tone will be there. Bow Wow Wow will be returning to perform I Want Candy. It's really weird because back then, a lot of times there was just a keyboardist and a drummer, or I'm sorry, a keyboardist and a vocalist, and everything else is sampled. So there really isn't a lot of energy on stage, except for the vocalist kind of dancing around, or maybe the keyboard player, but there's not a lot of unity because it's just one or two musicians. So it's a really weird thing. And then you'll have a band come up that's a full band, maybe 3 or 4 keyboard players and a drummer. And it's just such an odd dynamic, the way that music was performed in the 80s. I always assumed that the studio work was done the way it was, and then they actually just had players that came out live. But I guess that really wasn't the case. And so these bands are performing the way that they performed back then. So it's really a visually interesting dynamic. But there's often meet and greets, and definitely want to take advantage of that this year, which I did not do last year. So it should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, Deep Purple will be coming back to town here in September as well. I'm really looking forward to that show. It's going to be fantastic. Every time that I've seen them, it's been a great show. And even when the venue hasn't been great, like I didn't really care for the venue I saw them at in Laughlin. It felt like an old airport hangar that just had no decent acoustics, and all the chairs were just on the floor. There were no tiers or any risers. So it just kind of stretched on for a while. So it was a really weird dynamic. The sound wasn't good, but you can still appreciate what the band does if you're enjoying the music, and you can get past the sound. Even as an audio engineer, I find it difficult to just kind of let go and enjoy the music, because I keep thinking you should do this and you should do that, because I'm kind of ridiculous in that world at times. But anyway, it's going to be a great concert schedule. Who knows what else will pop up in the meantime. I've seen a lot of other shows that don't really know that I'll have the time to see, or they aren't necessarily as important as these other shows. Greg German, who is one of my earlier guests on the podcast, is going to be coming through. He's still touring with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and they're going to be hitting, I think, the Smith Center here in, I want to say, July. I think they're in California now, or were recently in California. I don't know their exact schedule, but if you haven't seen them, if they're coming through your town, take a couple of hours and go see that. From what I've heard, it's an absolutely fantastic show. I know the drums are solid because I know Greg and I know the quality that he plays as, but it's supposed to be a really fantastic show. So if you haven't seen it and you get the chance, please do go. So that's pretty much everything that's happening here. Let's bring on our guest, Tatiana, and learn about web design and red carpet photography and writing and what it's like to be a PR agent. And she has all those things to talk to us about. So here she is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and welcome Tatiana onto the show. Tatiana, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic today, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. You know, I appreciate you taking out some time, because you have so many different things going on that I imagine you don't have a lot of free time.
Sounds like it, but that's how I like it.
Well, yeah, and I think that most creative people really prefer it that way. You know, people tell us all the time, oh, you need to take a vacation, you need to take a rest. But a lot of times I feel like what I do isn't really work. How do you feel?
Oh gosh, you know, when you have so many things on your plate, and when you're trying to be as creative as you want to be, then it has to be structured, actually. So I'm trying to plan my day ahead of time and allocate time for this and that. And at the end of it, at the end of the day, all it counts, what actually did you produce and how did you spend your time? Because if you can think, it's, I believe, 168 hours a week. So if you will jot it down, how many hours you deduct from it, from your sleep, for checking your social media, for eating, for sitting in the traffic, how many hours left, which actually you're utilizing to be creative and produce something, and how many hours you lose. So
that's a good point.
That's what I count at the end of the day.
I like that. And I've been trying this new time blocking technique, because I have, much like you, I have a lot of different things that I'm working on. And I'm trying to do this thing where, okay, from 8 to 10, I'm going to do this. From 10 to 10:15, I'm going to do that. And if I can stick to it, I find that it works. But also, sometimes as a creative, you just get in a zone, and you really shouldn't stop what you're doing just because the alarm went off. If you're going and you're in a good place, I kind of feel like it needs to be a little more flowing.
Then you keep going.
Yeah.
Then you keep going.
Right. But then it throws off the schedule for everything else, and it kind of puts me back to where I was before I started time blocking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm working a good phrase, actually.
Right.
I possibly will use it myself now. Time blocking.
Well, since you do so many different things, let's start off with the one that you were doing when you and I met back in 2015 when I was living in California. You were working as a photographer at one of the red carpet events, and you're still doing photography to this day. What kind of stuff are you working on now?
Well, actually, right now, I finally feel that I'm ready to have my very first photography show this year.
Congratulations.
So I'm in the process. Thank you. I am in a process of finding great pieces because I would like to. I'm good at portraits.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, 20 years ago, I used to do portraits with colored pencils.
Mm.
And actually that, because I know when I was raising kids and everything, I never had time to sit down and do it. That's why I kind of started experimenting with the camera. I was doing photography for, I don't know, last 25 to 30 years. And I like black and white photography because it's timeless.
Yes.
And I can talk about photography for hours. Of course, I'm not going to do it now, but
right.
To me, the main thing in photography, it's not just to point, snap, and shoot. It's more like seizing the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I have pretty good vision of what I want to catch. I always try to make my subject talk to me. And when I see that moment, I always try to visualize the eyes. And I always want to capture something in the eyes. So when the portrait is created, and let's say when it's going to be displayed somewhere on the wall or any other place, I don't want people just walk by, look and go on. I want them to look, stop, and think, because it's all in the eyes. It's just that magic moment.
Mm-hmm.
As they say, one picture is worth more than 1,000 words. It's absolute cliche, but sometimes it does work because it's all in the coordination between your vision, your viewfinder on the camera, and your finger pressing on the shutter button at the right moment to capture something in the eyes, which will create, like, to freeze the moment, something like that. I really love to create portraits, especially black and white.
Yeah, I agree. I've always had an attraction to black and white photography because I think it's kind of like walking into a house that you're looking at buying. And if the house is already painted, you're kind of living in someone else's vision of what your world is going to be. But if you walk into the house and the house is pure white, you can get out of it what you get out of it. And you're less dictated to feel a certain thing. I think you can make it a more personal experience. And I think that's why I've always liked it.
Definitely.
But I would say that there are some things that obviously if you're looking at, say, a rainbow, I'd rather see that in color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it that you go out and look in particular for what you want to shoot, or is it that you go out and you see something and you shoot it?
Both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Both ways. Sometimes I just go through the city, and I have a lot of pictures of landscapes and, I don't know, some curve on the wall, whatever. Sometimes I like actually to take pictures of reflections on the walls, especially when it's rain. Last week there was lots of rain here in Los Angeles, so I was actually taking pictures of reflection of my own umbrella down on the cement in the puddle of water. Mm-hmm. It was kind of fun. So I don't know. I kind of like to see creative part everywhere. I can look at the sand and see the picture of the face on the sand or something like that. Depends on how it's like, how it's rolled and what kind of imprint somebody left on it. It can totally transpire something different.
Yeah. And I would imagine that as you're, honed into your art, everything that you see through the eyes of a photographer. Like as a drummer, everywhere I go, whether it's someone's speech or whether it's, a car moving by or something, I hear a rhythm in just about everything. Exactly. I would imagine it's the same for you visually. Yeah,
definitely. Definitely. And I like actually, as I mentioned before, that I used to draw with colored pencils. Mm-hmm. Now I can do it through the Photoshop, so I don't need colored pencils in my hand, but I like to create, and I do sometimes create some imaginary painting through the Photoshop, and it's kind of a combination of different mediums. So it's great. I love it. It's kind of something which relaxes me. It gives me moments to think.
Yeah, and it's a very personal experience too, because it's your
Yeah,
eye that's attracted to something and saying, "This is a moment I want to capture. There's something about this that I think needs to be memorialized."
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Now, do you prefer? You do a lot of portraits, but is there other kind of photography that you prefer, like nature or buildings or anything like that?
Portraits, that would be the thing. I like other kind of stuff, but my true thing is portraits.
Hmm.
And specifically portraits where I can capture something, some specific message, some specific stare, some specific gaze in the eyes. I always aim for the eyes. And let's put it this way, I like to evoke certain emotion in a person
Hmm.
to be able to capture it. Like if it would be an old, I have a portrait of my mother when she was looking at herself in the mirror.
Mm.
And she had extremely sad. I asked her to remember something from her past. So I was aiming not at her face, but at her reflection in the mirror while the backside of her face was visible still in my viewfinder. So the ready-to-look picture, the produced picture, you can see that the woman staring at her own reflections. But the eyes from the mirror were looking in my viewfinder. It's kind of a tricky way to do, but I'm glad that I did it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting because you're getting the expression of the person looking into themselves, which is the most reflective and introspective thing that we can do.
Exactly.
I like that concept.
Exactly.
Yeah. And is this now? So the gallery showing that you're planning on doing, so obviously that's going to be mostly portraits. Are you looking for things that evoke a particular emotion, or is it just going to be things that really stand out to you over of what you've done over the years?
Probably more what was standing out to me. And I already have a preliminary title for it. It would be called most likely In the Moment, because that was the moment when whatever we were talking about evoked some specific emotions which was captured.
Sure. Yeah.
And I will try to do only black and white portraits.
Oh, okay. That should be really interesting.
Yeah, I hope so.
Having no colorization is really going to make everything kind of stand out and pop, and really make people get in touch with what they feel when they see the picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope it will be good.
I'm sure it will. Do you get concerned with the clothing that people wear when you do the portraits, or is it really just more about the expression and the clothing is not as important?
Clothing is not that important, though. If we have scheduled photo shoot, we discuss what they will be wearing, because I will always discuss what is the point, why they want me to do this or that. Well, I'm not talking about red carpets right now.
Right.
That's totally different. It's
Sure.
more like a photojournalism rather than creation. It's two different. Red carpets is more of a business part of the photography, though sometimes I can capture good shots, which I can use for my other work.
Right.
One of those red carpets too. But if it's a private photo shoot, we would discuss the clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes clothing won't matter, because especially if it's going to be black and white. And actually, you gave me an idea. I'm going to probably include a picture of how it was created.
Oh.
I had a friend who was sitting in some public place, and I just told him the way I wanted him to keep his hands around the face and everything, and I did a snapshot of him with my Samsung 9 Galaxy, which is absolutely great for photography as well. And then I filtered out everything and I converted to black and white, and it's just his face with the hands popping to his cheek, and he's kind of like thinking, and you can think like he's thinking of something important in the past or whatever, or maybe he's dreaming, something like that. But everything else around him, I just blacked out. So it's just black and white face on a black background. I love this picture. And a lot of people love this picture too, whoever saw it. So
Oh, I'm sure. That sounds wonderful.
I'm not really concerned about the they think about the picture, the clothing.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. And I like that process, the way that you filter everything out to really just make what you want show, what you want that connection to be for the viewer. Do you find that if you were to convert to black and white without filtering it, would really take away from that direct connection of what you want to stand out?
Actually, it enhances it.
Mm-hmm.
Because color somehow distracts your eyes, and your eyes, your stare, or your gaze, let's put it this way, is scattering, actually scanning the entire photograph to absorb all colors which are there, like all rainbow colors are there. But when it's black and white, you concentrate right now on what's popping out. The gaze, the eyes.
Right.
And it's very localized,
Exactly. But I think there's another facet to it, and tell me if I'm wrong, but by doing that, you're also changing the depth perception of the picture. If you take a picture of a person and they're outside and you see the background, you get a certain sense of where they are. But when you do it in black and white and you take all that out, you're really isolating it, but it also isolates the person and the mood, because you're not getting a perspective of where they are or what's going on in the environment.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And if for whichever reason I need to keep this picture colorized, I always can blur out the background and really sharpen and focus on the face. And I know that there are a lot of debates among photographers and professionals about using the Photoshop, but you know what? There were times when there were no cars, and then cars arrived, and people were kind of debating whether or not cars are good things. And right now, look at us. All of us, we have cars to drive, right?
Right.
The times of, yes, I understand that Ansel Adams, and I love the work of Ansel Adams, and he was absolutely great at what he did. But right now, with all due respect, we live in modern times, and Photoshop, it's not substitute your craft, because if you're not talented, you won't even know what to do.
Right.
But it kind of broadens the tools, the spectrum of what you can do to convey your message of what you see, to convey it to the viewers.
Right. I agree. And I think that the issue with most people with regards to Photoshop is creating things that aren't real. So if you were to take a picture, for example, of celebrity, and then you put them in a sex scene, or you swap out their head with somebody else to present like a naked picture of them or something that they did not take or want released, I think that's a big issue as far as the ability.
That's a butchery, and that's a crime. That's a butchery and a crime.
Right. But Photoshop gives us the ability to do that and make it look realistic.
Oh,
yeah. My graphic artist that does my album covers, Kelly, she uses that to create things that I want created, because a lot of the stuff that I do album cover wise is very fantasy. So, I think it's great for stuff like that. But I think the real issue is creating things that never happened, or, just fixing somebody so that they're so perfect looking that it's not even realistic. Yeah. And I kind of agree with that. I think that it really creates a false sense of who someone is and the reality of them. I think people should just be proud of who you are. If you have a mole, you have a mole. If you have a bump, you have a bump, It's
about integrity.
Exactly.
It's all about integrity.
But you talked about the background, and one thing that I've noticed, we have a lot of art galleries here on the Strip, and I when I walk by, or sometimes I'll go in and I'll look at them, and I see how they try to make everything clear, whether it's the stuff that's right in front of you or half a mile in the background. Everything has to be sharp, like these new 4D televisions, where everything is sharp, and it really just throws off the sense of balance and the depth perception. It's not something that I could say I really like.
I agree with you. Sometimes you need to use your judgment, because, it depends what kind of message you want to convey. Sometimes you keep it blur or make it blur on purpose. Depends on what you want.
Right.
Yeah, not everything should be sharp. Like in real life,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it makes me feel like I have superhero vision or something when
Exactly.
it just, and it makes the pictures very uncomfortable for me because I shouldn't be able to see what I'm seeing in them.
Yeah.
And it's worse if it's a movie because then you've got scrolling action and it really just, I remember it was one of the Hobbit movies that a friend of mine was showing me. And it was the first time I had seen one of those televisions. And I thought, this just feels so awkward and wrong. I don't understand how far away anyone is. You don't really know where the danger is if you can't tell where the placement is of a person in the visual field. So that's really interesting. I love that you're pursuing the black and white. I think that really for me is a winner.
Thank you.
For sure. So let's move on and definitely keep us posted about the gallery showing because I definitely want to let people know about that, especially if you're in the LA area.
Oh, it will be. I already have some gallery in mind, and I hope that everything will be perfect.
I'm sure it will. And I'm definitely
our gallery, and I will reveal the name later. But yeah, we are in talks right now.
Excellent. Yeah, as we know from living in Los Angeles, you don't say anything until the contract is signed, and even then, you don't say anything until you're allowed to, and it can get pretty tricky for those of us that have signed multi-million-dollar non-disclosure deals.
Yeah.
Now, did you like doing the red carpet stuff, the photography there? Because that's a different world completely.
You know what? I'm really glad that I had such a unique opportunity because it helped me to get my name out there and meet absolutely incredible people. And I don't know, there are a lot of other friends of mine and colleagues, photographers who do a red carpet, and probably they've done even bigger names than I did, but it doesn't matter. It's each of us individual, and I'm really glad that I was able to meet a lot of good people, and I had a lot of work which was published and sold on the internet in different countries and everything. I would say one of the biggest events I've done, to me, maybe not one of the biggest, but to me it was one of the biggest events when I was part of the press corps for the event, which was memorializing Michael Jackson, and actually his legacy. It was his handprint and footprint. And unfortunately it was done after his departure.
Right.
Post-mortem, so there were 3 children who were trained to do the Paris she did the imprint of the glove. Oh. It was interesting how that his very famous studded glove was wrapped in saran wrap, the kitchen saran wrap, and she pressed her hand over it, and each of the boys did the shoe imprint, and then the girl, she was trained to do his signature because there was supposed to be a signature, and all 3 kids were allowed to put their own hand imprint next to it as a part of the legacy. So it was very interesting event, and I have a picture of blanket looking straight in my viewfinder of my camera. So that picture was sold in Italy, China, Germany, God knows where. So that was pretty interesting, and I met quite a good number of people on that event, which I photographed, like Smokey Robinson, Theodore Garrett, and we took even pictures together with her and Justin Bieber. So that was quite a good event back in the day.
Wow. Was this on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
It was in front of Chinese theater.
How did he not already have a star there? It seems like that would have happened decades ago.
I'm not talking about the star, actually. Shame on me. I'm not even sure if he has star or not. But that was right in front of the Chinese Gourmet Theater, where all stars put their imprint of their feet and hands.
Right, yeah.
In the cement. That's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Well, unfortunately, he was a genius in his own right. I absolutely admire his music legacy and his absolutely incredible talent. But there was so much controversy around his name back in the day that somehow it didn't happen. Yeah. So I'm glad that at least it would happen. It happened post-mortem.
At least it eventually did, yeah.
Because he was a giant. He was a musical giant, and he deserved to be remembered in the right way.
Sure.
Definitely.
I'm so glad that you got to be a part of that. And, obviously, the events that you do, you can look at them as, oh, I'm getting to go do this red carpet event, or I've been hired to do this or that. But the thing is that your work, every shot that you take, every person that you meet can lead to more work. And, when you and I met, and we were talking about this before the show, and I'm pretty sure it was at Eric Zuli's kickoff tour for the Stop the Nonsense. And I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the venue. I should know it because I'd been there a couple of times. But that was such a great event. And people, I think, kind of have a misconception as to what walking the red carpet actually is. And it's a real stern process of stand here, now take one step, now turn, now do this. It's not people walking through and photographers taking photos. There is an actual process to that.
Yes, it is. And it's a moment of connection again. There's a bunch of photographers who are yelling at the same person, turn right or left or the shoulder, then here, then there. Mm-hmm. But still, the moment when you get attention of the person, again, you are able to consume the moment and create. You still can create and get to that moment.
And that's while the photographer next to you is yelling at a different actor, and the photographer next to them is yelling at a different actor. It's a loud process, and there's so many flashes going off that as someone like myself who's walked a few red carpets, it's really disorienting and almost blinding. And the first time I did it, I was terrified because you want to look confident, you want to look like you know what you're doing, but you really don't. And then everyone just kind of guides you along the way. And as soon as they're done with you, they're done and they are on to the next person, and you need to move. You need to get to that next photographer, And then, of course, at the end, there's interviews and stuff like that. But when they show it on TV, it looks very glamorous and very calm, but it's kind of chaotic, especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I've met a lot of different photographers, and I would say that one of my most favorite college photographers on red carpet would be Davidov, because he's absolutely professional. He's likable, and everybody calls him Uncle Bob, and he's like, his pictures are perfect. And sometimes, because besides photography, later years I started doing PR. Mm-hmm. So when I'm walking red carpet, sometimes I'm with my client, and Uncle Bob takes picture of me. It's kind of fun. So I just wanted to say shout out to him and say that I really love him as a person and in work as a photographer.
I'm glad that you brought him up, because Bob has taken my photo on more than one occasion, and he's always such a gracious and kind and thoughtful person. He's one of those people that will kind of help you through that process. He'll help guide you, and he's not aggressive or anything like some of the people get. He's very patient, very calm, really wants to bring the best out, and I love that about him. Total kudos to Bob.
What actually happened, I didn't even tell him that yet, because, well, as you mentioned before, because I do quite a few different creative things. Mm-hmm. I'm planning to interview him for my blog. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but I hope he won't mind. But I'm planning to interview him for my blog.
Right? Yeah,
that would be kind of fun.
I want to say Bob was at just about every red carpet event I went to. I think there might have been one or two, but I mean, there's so many in a night. You can't be at all of them, but he's very good at that.
Maybe he has a clone of himself, because he's literally everywhere.
Exactly.
So I really admire this guy.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely somebody that I met that made me feel comfortable to be there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Was it through one of these events that you eventually got invited to be part of the LA City Guide?
No, I have no idea how they found me, LA City Guide or the website is called Voyage LA. Mm-hmm. Somebody named Mike called me 4 years ago, and they said that they did sort of like a scavenger search on internet, and they found my website, and they were interested to do an interview with me. So it was a very humbling experience. They sent me questions and had me type the answers. They chose 10 pictures from my website, which they will post it on their own. So that was pretty much interesting.
Wow.
I still have the link on my, I believe I still have a link on my website, a link to that interview. Actually, I'm making note right now to double check that this link is still active. So it was very interesting.
Was it a good experience?
Yes, because I never considered myself, it was actually the very first time when somebody picked me out for interview. So that was very honoring moment and very interesting. So I'm really glad that I had such an opportunity to showcase my work.
But that's the thing, I think, is if you're always putting work out there that you feel is good, that's worth people connecting with, you never know who's going to connect with it. But if you just throw out everything you shoot, or unless you really note it as this is an experimental shot, what do you guys think? Or this is a demo version, what do you think? If you're putting out work as a release or to be viewed by people, you have to put out your best stuff all the time, because everything that you do is going to be put under scrutiny.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So let's get into your writing a little bit. You've recently started blogging, which is great. What kind of stuff are you blogging about?
It kind of started, but it was kind of interesting. That English is my actually third language.
Third.
I was born. My native tongue is Russian. I speak also Georgian because I'm from Republic of Georgia.
Oh.
And 20 plus years ago, I came to United States and I learned English by watching Dallas series. Do you remember this TV show?
Oh, yeah.
That was my English classes. I never took any other classes. So later on, I took as a bet, like about 7-8 years ago, I never bet, but somebody said, like, why don't you show me if you can do English in college as not as ESL, but as a native language? And I said, like, that. Mm-hmm. So I went to Pierce Community College, and there was absolutely incredible teacher, Janine Brown, who challenged me to creative writing. And I aced entire class, and that's how it all started. So I kind of discovered that, my father, he was a journalist, so probably I carried a little bit of his genes, which I'm proud of that I did. And I don't know, one thing led to another. And I did a story, one very dear friend of mine, and also my client, Rodney and Rippy. And that story was, I did that story on my blog. And then this story got picked up and republished by City to Country magazine, I believe, out of Texas. And the same story got picked up and reposted by Hollywood Weekly magazine out of LA. And one thing led to another, and then I did like about 8 stories for that magazine about other people for Hollywood Weekly. And currently I am doing a few pieces here and there for Magic Image Hollywood magazine. So that's kind of interesting. And that's what led me to start a new blog, which is called Always Shining Hollywood, the then and the now.
And we'll have that link in the show notes as well. But that's fantastic that people are really connecting with your work and wanting to share it with others, because that's kind of, I think, the biggest challenge. And I want to talk to you about your PR in a minute, but
I just wanted to mention something, if you don't mind, about the writing part. Mm-hmm. 2 things actually. That the blog Always Shining Hollywood, the purpose of it, to shed some story light on some unknown facts of big stars from the past, and try to showcase new stars now who are here in the now. So that's the point. And the other little thing, it's too early to say, but let's see what's going to happen. I do some creative writing as well. And I had done a story about an old woman who was struggling with Alzheimer's. and trying to reclaim her past. And because I had such a positive review from different people who had read it, that they actually challenged me to submit the story to the New Yorker magazine. So I'm waiting. I'm under 90 days period of waiting. Hopefully they will accept it. If not, then I will. Then I have a couple of other blogs where I am aiming to publish the story. We'll see what's going to happen, but it's been kind of interesting thing. I like writing, so we'll see what's going to happen.
Well, that's great. And kudos to you for following through on that, because if you don't submit, nothing's ever going to happen. If you do submit, at least you have a chance. And I think that people are so afraid of rejection, or maybe they're afraid of success, that they don't go for it. And you have to. If you're interested in becoming a writer or doing it on a more professional level, maybe than what you already are, you have to take those opportunities.
Oh, you know what? Yes, it's relevant to any walk of life. If you don't ask for it, people cannot read your mind.
Exactly.
It comes to your work. It comes to your relationship. You come to anything. You ask for what you want, and either you're going to get it, you're going to fight for it, or you're going to let it go and move on. So it's relevant. You need to be ballsy and do what you think is right for you.
Exactly. But do you think that people are more afraid of being rejected because art is such a personal thing? Or do you think that they're more afraid of being successful because then it makes them more responsible for better content, more content, following up?
I would say both.
Yeah.
I would say both. People are afraid to get hurt. It's regardless, it's relationship or business. People are afraid to succeed, and people are afraid to get hurt. People are so used. It's like you're tattered, battered, old, probably with holes house shoes. You know that you need to replace them, but you're so comfortable with them. Your feet are so comfortable that you're afraid to break into your new shoes.
Right.
Because you still have those. It's the same thing. We talk about creating new stuff, or why I'm not successful at this new venture, new business, or whatever. What did you do for it? How did you fight for it? Did you believe in yourself? What's your support group? And you know how many times I've heard from my friends, oh, you already tried this and it didn't happen. So why you're trying it again? Because I will be trying. Just because it didn't happen, then now I need to analyze why it happened. What did I do wrong then? And what do I know now? How can I do better? Because I am an entrepreneur. I cannot work any job 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It's boring.
Well, it's also kind of soul crushing when you're an artist.
Soul crushing, yes.
But then I think people, when they do finally venture out and do their first thing, if it doesn't work, they tend to say, oh, well, it wasn't meant to be, or I guess I can't compete, or whatever. And they don't analyze it. They don't really look and do what you say. What did I do wrong? Or maybe what did I do right and put it in the wrong venue? Maybe this magazine wasn't the right place to submit, but maybe that submission is a good one, and I just submitted it to the wrong place. I mean, there's so many factors. But I think people are just so willing and eager to give up on themselves and really not push and fight for it. It really makes me sad, because there's a lot of great stuff that we don't get to experience. Meanwhile, a lot of the stuff that's out there is not creative. It's a lot of repetitive stuff, but those are the people that are willing to fight. Exactly.
It's my favorite. I have like 2 favorite phrases which keep me going. One of them is from Kelly Clarkson's song, "It's not gonna kill me, will make me stronger." That's absolutely day-to-day thing. Whenever I feel in doubt or hurt or any different emotions, I would always say this to myself, and it keeps me going. And the other one I really like, I would usually say, "Throw me to the pack of wolves, and I will come back as their leader."
Ooh.
I'm very strong, and I kind of like it,
That's really
I can
empowering.
be vulnerable, but I like this stuff. I like motivate other people and motivate me. I'm not afraid. I don't know, it's cocky or not. I hope not too much.
No.
I'm not afraid when you say no.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I look at that as well. That's kind of one of the things that drives me. And even, anybody that I ask to come on the show, the worst that they're going to do is not respond at all. The second worst thing they can do is say
that would be rude.
Right. But that happens. I'll be in a conversation with somebody and we're having a nice little back and forth. And I'll say, hey, would you be interested in coming on the podcast? And the conversation just stops and they disappear. And these are friends. These are people that I know. And it's really disappointing to me. But at the same point, then I'm not going to waste my time, pursuing them to come on the show. But those are the worst things that can happen. And if you can live with the worst things, then anything else is going to be better.
Exactly. But sometimes people, I can understand that it's intimidating to be on the show, to be on the microphone. I remember my very, very, very first time when I was being interviewed for internet television, I don't know, good 8-9 years ago. Good friend of mine who right now works for Pasadena Media Center, Maurice Smith. He invited me to be on the show, and I was like, oh my God, Maurice, I've never done this. I'm going to be stumbling. And he goes like, Tatiana, relax. I'll guide you. You're going to be fine. So I agreed to come to his show. And what do you know? He puts me together in the same segment with, oh my God, the guy. That's a shame. I can't remember the name. He is great. Coach Bibi, Henry Bibi. He's part of, Wall of Fame and everything. And I felt really fine because Maurice was really skillful at what he does, and he makes me feel relaxed and comfortable. And that tape is somewhere out there on the internet even now. And later I was bringing my clients to Maurice in his show. It's Nuclear Popcorn. He's really great at what he does. So I'm happy to be a little shout out to him. So that was my very first interview. But going back to what you were saying, it's intimidating to talk in front of the mic. So I understand that. So don't take it hard from people who are saying no because they're just never done it before.
Well, and I'm okay with that. I can understand that, the first time that I was asked to be on the radio, the first time I did my panel at Comic-Con and those kind of things. Yeah, I mean, they can be overwhelming. But and I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with somebody telling me, no, they don't want to come on the show. The problem I have is when people are having a conversation, we're going back and forth, and I ask them about the show, and they just disappear. Tell me you don't. Just give me a no if you don't want to come on the show. Don't just disappear from the conversation.
Don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, that's the one I have a hard time with. But let me just interject. You're doing great today. You're doing great on with your answers and responses. So no worries. You're a seasoned pro now.
Thank you, Maurice, for that. Right?
Thank you, Maurice. Yeah, you did great. So let's talk about the representation work that you actually, before we do that, let's talk about the website design, because that's another very important part of PR work. When you're going to design a website for someone, what is your approach on how you get to know them and how you find out what is the right website design for them to have?
Okay, now we're going to the most favorite subject.
Oh, good.
You will have to start me because I can talk forever about that. How I got into this, it was very interesting. I was searching how and where to build my own website for my photography work about 8-9 years ago. Then I stumbled upon Wix, Wix.com. I built my very own website, and I thought it was perfect. I loved it, and I did it myself and for free and everything. A couple of years down the road, I found that I did do not such a bad job because I was approached by Wix people if I would be interested to be part of their pilot program to become a certified web design expert. And I said, yes, let's see what's going on. So they trained me, they certified me, they advertised me among other web designers like myself, and I do a lot of freelance work for Wix right now. For the last couple of years, I've been certified with them for 4 years now. And I get leads from them on a daily basis, which is great.
Wow.
They work on our continuous education. We have closed Facebook group for the same nerdy website geeks like myself.
Uh-huh.
And let's say I'm building somebody's website and I get stumbled upon something and I don't know how to do it. All I need to do is just pose the question, and some Facebook friend from Japan or God knows from Mars or whatever will get me help and answer within like next half an hour or so. So that's been really great. I love Wix because it's cloud-based program. They recently created their own language. You know that it's HTML. It's the programming language. It's which every website person is using right now, webmaster is using to create websites. Mm-hmm. They created some kind of mixture between HTML and JavaScript. It's called Corvid for Wix. Mm-hmm. Absolutely great. It can be used only on Wix right now, but helps a lot. And I don't know, I just love it. It's my thing. I love Wix. And it's easy. You can have any kind of website there for renting BRB or Airbnb type of rooms, or for hotels or for restaurants, takeouts, for events, selling tickets, showcasing upcoming work, for anything. You name it, Wix can have it. And I love the flexibility, and I love the ability. I don't need the template. What I do, I create a designer template. And now we're going back to the question you actually asked me. So
that was a great path, though, because it's I love the fact that they came to you.
I do remember the original question.
Right. But I love the fact that they came to you and said, hey, we really like what you've done with our software, and we want you to be a part of our team.
Well, no. Technically, I cannot say that I'm part of their team. I have disclaimer on my website. I do freelance work for them, but I'm not part of Wix. I'm independent. But yes, I'm authorized to say that I do freelance work for them. That's right. But no, I'm not working for the company.
Well, no, but I meant more of like as the beta testing part.
I just needed to clear. I know, yeah. But I just need to clear life.
Right.
I'm like, it's going to stay.
Yeah, it's permanent
forever. I need to clarify.
I appreciate
legalities of it. I need to clarify.
Sure.
So let's say I would be creating a website for your podcast right now. I know that you haven't, but let's say, for example, I would be working with you right now.
Right.
I would have a conversation with you. I would figure out how did you see that website going. It should be absolutely classical and no boring. Or you want to have it modern, contemporary. So what kind of vision you have? I usually say to my prospective clients, do a search online and show me what you like, what kind of vision you have. Because literally, I don't need a template. I can start and create anything you want from the absolute scratch.
Right.
I was building, as an example, a website for one of the martial arts gyms. And they actually had interviewed several different webmasters, and they showed each of us the prototype of a website they wanted to use, and they asked us to do a markup. So I got the bid because they liked the way I did markup. So show me any kind of website you want, and I will be able to understand what exactly you like and do without copyright infringement, legit variation, like it's covered for a song,
right?
Covered for a website,
sure,
something like that. You know, my musical background popping through here as well right now. So this is great.
And that makes sense, because really the website should be a shining example of who that person is. It should have their personality.
Exactly. What the website is like a driver license, or at least state ID. You cannot be without a driver license. So if you're a business person, you have to have your website done, because otherwise nobody can take it seriously.
Right.
And if website, when I look at the website and how it's done, I practically can't say at this point when it was done, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, because of the look and because of the feel, because of the trends, what's trendy now, so I don't know. And I need to say that, yes, I'm certified by Wix, but I can work with, I'm certified actually by GoDaddy as well. And I can work with, I don't know, I didn't count, 9 or 10 different web builders.
Wow.
So it doesn't have to be just Wix. I prefer Wix because they are the best.
Right.
Not just because I say it's so, but because what they can offer. And trust me, they in the next few years, they will overshadow WordPress as well.
Oh, absolutely.
WordPress people, thank you for understanding that. I can do WordPress as well, but the personal choice would be.
Sure.
My soulmate. Wix is my soulmate. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. When you get comfortable with something, and we have these arguments in music all the time. What's better, Pro Tools, Cubase, and really it's the tool that you're most comfortable with is the one that's the best. And I think when it comes to website design, it's definitely, there's so many components to it, and any one character in the programming that's out completely messes everything up. So it's wherever you're going to be the most efficient and comfortable, that's where you should go, obviously. I did a little bit of website design. I used to do my own back in the old days when I was with GoDaddy, and I was just working with an HTML program, and I got a crash course in HTML in about an hour. And it was just enough for me to be able to put a decent site together. Obviously, the kind of stuff that you're doing is well beyond the scope of what I was capable of or would even think of, because it's not just the programming skills, it's the vision.
Exactly.
So that's a very important thing. And then how important or how much do you work with the SEO side of it, where you're working with like the search engine optimization?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. SEO is very important, to be honest. Like, it's a route you have to go, because if you want to get yourself to be found, you need to know how to put those special meta tags, your social share image, how to put those long tail and short tail keywords, how to optimize your content, your images. There is a lot of things you need to do. And if you want to take a look at it, you always can go to my website, which is buildyourwix.com. I was actually lucky that I was able to snatch that URL. How cool is that? Buildyourwix.com. I was shocked. I just typed it as a search and it was available. And I'm like, oh my God.
When you sent the link over, I just smiled, because I thought, how lucky are you to have grabbed that? I mean, that you'd think that would have been taken right away. Yeah.
Buildyourwix.com.
I love it. And we'll have that link, of course, in the show notes as well. So that kind of, segues a little bit into the PR side, because you mentioned earlier, all these different places that have found your work and are sharing it and licensing it. What's the trick to being found in this world of just a flood of content? How do you stand out so that people... because it's not the quality of your work as much as just being found amongst all the other work.
Oh, that's true and tricky question. And the best possible answer for that would be you have to network. No matter how good you are and what kind of awesome content you will throw in. And for a minute, as an example, I will go back to the photography issue. No matter what kind of pictures I will take and what kind of portraits and how good that they convey the subject of the portrait or whatever, if I will keep it only to myself on my computer and will never share it with anyone,
right?
Nobody will find out about it. Then again, it's how you share and what you share. It's no longer, you need to judge, and it comes sort of like social media spectrum here, because there are so many different platforms out there. Like, for example, LinkedIn and Alignable. Alignable, it's a Alignable.com. They are sort of like a smaller scale version of mixture between LinkedIn and Facebook for local business communities. And I love Alignable. I have a lot of hits from Alignable. So, but those two platforms, LinkedIn and Alignable, they're more for wordy platforms. You need to put the blogs there, you need to put questions there, have people like sort of like a forum type of thing.
Right.
So that's one aspect of social media into networking. But then there are Instagram and Pinterest. And I'm absolutely falling in love with Pinterest lately because they used to be, about 4 or 5 years ago, they used to be like in Instagram only with pictures or also called pins. Right now you can pin not just pictures, but you can pin videos, blogs,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
everything. And I absolutely adore Pinterest. And then that's what I'm doing right now. My main thing going on Pinterest. Because I have like statistics shows apparently I have the most hits on Pinterest. Apparently I have 851 viewers on average every month.
Wow.
Not that small amount, but not that big yet. So that means there is room for improvement. But again, it's about content. So the more, and of course it's personal interaction.
Right. And of course, when people like your work, then they save your pin. Other people see that they're saving your pin, and then you can find more fans that way too. It's just a great organic spread. And I'm a big believer in organic. Yeah.
Exactly. Organic. Though I'm looking into start, I need to start investing a little bit more into paid search too. And I think I'm going to, I don't know, I will check it out, which one will work better, either Facebook or Pinterest, but I will see that. I just want to see what the difference it's going to make.
Yeah.
But definitely I need to go to the paid route as well, because it targets the paid route exactly who you want to see your advertising. So we'll see. I'm open to all new kinds of things.
I definitely enjoy that avenue. I have a Pinterest as well, and I think I'm on everywhere, but like Snapchat and FaceTime and I can't do that.
Me either.
I'm not into that graphic putting rabbit ears on myself and that sort of thing. But I think Pinterest is great, and so when you take on a new client to do PR for them, is that part of the package? Do you set up all their different social media sites or review them and kind of steer them in the direction that they should be?
I would say that PR is very fine-tuned work, and there are so many different aspects of that, and there are so many great names who are far above and beyond of what I can offer. I'm trying to be very humble here, of course. I would love just to mention 3 of my handpicked clients who I like to devote my attention to.
Sure.
It's, of course, Rodney and Rippy.
Mm-hmm.
We all know people of a low and of mature generation. I don't know if that's right. 50 who are 50 and over. People who are 50 and over.
Yes.
They remember the face of Jack in the Box.
Yes.
And he started almost with 3. He became an overnight sensation, the national spokesman for the Jack in the Box back in the 70s.
A lot of people don't know that he actually sang the song, which was released and ended up charting on the Billboard charts as well.
That I did my research last year. The song was, and I actually I contacted the Billboard Records, and they sent me a confirmation and a written confirmation that not just he came in on Billboard. That song, there's 2 new things which are not commonly known factor. Apparently, that track of that song, "Take Life a Little Easier," is still on a list of 100 of the most popular songs in the last 50 years.
Really?
I never knew that. Yeah, they sent it to me.
Wow.
I wasn't prepared to say it right now, so I don't have it handy, but I can later. I can give you that reference because I don't want it to sound like I'm coming up with this story. And the other thing, what I wanted to mention, he is the youngest male artist ever in the United States performed who got himself on a Billboard chart, so he is eligible for the Guinness record.
No kidding.
For that. And I also, last year, I spoke with people from Guinness Records, and in the future, we're going to work something out, and we're going to see what we can do to get him that certification, because that would be really good, and he so deserves it.
Oh, yeah. Well, plus it just feels good to be recognized.
He is doing, he's still in the industry. He does some productions, producing and directing. And he has done a couple of episodes for 2 different web series last year. These 2 different producers. One of them is What Holly Goes to Hollywood, created by very talented Alyssa Huffelt. Mm-hmm. And the other one was Camp Lane, which was, it's still work in progress, that show by Elaine Vallet. She's also a client of mine, and she's absolutely talented producer and director, and just very good person to be friends with and to work with. It's called Misadventure of Camp Lane, so she has done it. It's not out there. It's in production, but it's just something to showcase his talent.
Good.
He's good at what he does. And also, Rodney and Rippy right now, he does a lot of vocational work for the youth, for disadvantaged youth. And it's something which we should accommodate him for. So there are a lot of good things in works for Rodney, and I hope that in the future we're going to be able to shed light on that. And actually, I would love if you would be interested to talk to him.
Oh yeah,
I think he would be very interested to talk to you. He has a lot of stories too.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. And of course, I remember him from my childhood.
Yeah, I definitely will put you 2 together.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you. Growing up back east, Jack in the Box was a pretty predominant restaurant in our area, and we didn't have one that was really close to us. But, I lived where A&W was a regular restaurant, just like McDonald's or Burger King or Taco Bell. And in fact, we didn't have a Taco Bell until, I don't remember what the year was, but it was somewhere probably in the early to mid 80s when we got our first one.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing that Jack in the Box commercial every day. And I remember him from being in it. And then, of course, he was a guest star on a lot of television shows during that time, too.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, he factors into my life.
That's wonderful. And she would love to hear that. I actually built his website as well, by the way.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Called realrodneyallenrippy.com. I'll send you the link, too.
Oh, thank you, yeah.
I'd love if you will put it there, too. realrodneyallenrippy.com. And we actually were able to find one of the very fine enthusiasts and fanatics who is incredible collector of records, Scotty D. And he, last year for Rodney's birthday, he actually created a CD version of the entire album. So finally, Rodney has his original album, of course, but it's vinyl record. So now we have that CD with all 11 tracks on it. So that was very wonderful thing to do. We're just hoping that maybe one of these days his doll will be reproduced again. You know that he had a doll, right?
I do know that, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, he's not somebody who's been incredibly in the spotlight over the years, but he's always been there. And I love that he has sustained a career from that one gig.
He's pretty much in the industry.
Yeah.
He's pretty much in the industry, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I love when people can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you said that you also have Richard Ryan, is that right?
Richard Ryan, yes. Richard Ryan is absolutely incredible, talented, multi-talented actor, director, producer. He just produced his full feature film called Out of the Deception. Let me tell you, when I was at the screening, it was 7 of us in the room, and I totally forgot that it's a client, it's a friend, and I am just at the movie screening. I was so in this movie, I forgot where I was, and I was like, oh my God, I hope that's going to happen. I hope he's going to beat up all these dead guys and everything. The movie is absolutely incredible. And I know that he recently, I believe he distributed it to China. So the trailer for his movie is on IMDb, and actually I will send the trailer too, because I would not mind. Actually, I would not mind if you will speak to him as well, because your listeners, you're a lot. And I know that he's not going to run away from you.
No, not at all.
You do.
Because I'm so aggressive.
See, I'm talking to you, and I'm doing a little PR for my clients as well.
Exactly.
At the point. The movie is absolutely incredible. And let me tell you a little thing about it. There are about a lot of different action movies and everything, but what was kind of close home to me, he was doing there a lot of course, it's action movies, so there was a lot of fighting and, karate and martial arts stuff. I have 2 children who are black belts, 2 grown-up children who are black belts. Wow. And because they were doing it for about, almost 20 years on and off. And I'm one of those martial arts mama.
Right.
I was with them from the age, my son was 7 when he started. My son was about 8 and my daughter was 6, something like that. But both are black belts. So that, I actually like martial arts and MMA and around it. So when I was watching Richard Ryan's movie, Fighting Scenes, I told him that he has done it very real, because they didn't filter out that labored breath. In most movies, it's like, hoo-ha! Mm-hmm. And it's also easy when they fight with each other, whatever. They even show that sweat and what goes behind it and how actually tiring, exhausting that is. Mm-hmm. And Richard Ryan did it in that movie. You see that it's not just like a cartoon thing. When you sometimes, actually before I've seen that episode in his movie, it never occurred to me that that's exactly what is missing in so many other fighting scenes in the movies.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not about that glamorous, artsy kicks. It's actually hurt because he's beating the guy and he's taking punches back.
Right.
So he is hurting, actually. So he was able to convey this, and we heard that labored breath a little bit. It's just hit the point. It just made it so much better, so much real. So I'm wishing Richard all the best. He is absolutely talented.
The little subtleties that people tend to forget about. And, if you look at most fight scenes in movies, whoever the hero is, they could be surrounded by people to fight, but they're really only fighting 1 or 2 people at a time. Everyone else is just kind of standing there. And then it seems like if they get hit, it doesn't hurt them. They're fairly invincible. I've not seen a lot of reality in a lot of the fight scenes in movies.
Exactly, you're right. And I'm not degrading, of course. It's wonderful how they do it. But when you have a new way to show something different, mm-hmm. something more in-depth, it just makes it so much real.
Right. And I think that's the thing is, like, for me, I really like stuff that's real or has at least the believability of being real. And when I watch most of those scenes, they just don't seem real to me. So it's hard for me to identify with them. But I like that. I like when they take it to a more realistic level. That's great.
Yeah.
It's great. So at this point, we don't have an American release date, right? They're still in the works in that.
No, not yet.
Okay.
But we're working on it,
Excellent.
definitely. But I will send you the link, and the link is done like you look at the little clip, you're going to see entire scoop of the movie, how good it is. It's absolutely captivating.
Excellent.
Paige Turner.
Good. Well, I wish them the best of success on that, and I can't wait to check it out. And then Elaine Dallas.
Yes. Elaine Wallace, she is absolutely multi-talented, incredible person, director, writer. She has done, like, if you will look at her MTV, she has a lot of credit there. And most important, she has something which makes you want to work with that woman. She takes care of you. She has her own vision. And the web series she's working on right now is Adventure of Camp Elaine. She's a great comedian as well.
Okay.
And she has a little dog, Oreo, who is part of that web series too. Mm-hmm. So I cannot say much, but watch out for this. It's going to be very interesting. The episode she did with Rodney and Johnny Whitaker. Do you remember Johnny Whitaker from back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
So they are all in that. And I'm good friends with Johnny Whitaker as well. Mm-hmm. She's on Red Carpet. So the episode was absolutely funny. I wish I could be able to tell you more, but let's see. Soon the trailer is going to be ready, so we're going to be able to see it.
Great.
So I'm wishing her all the best. She is something to watch out for, and she's great.
Well,
she's absolutely great, and I'm excited that Rodney will be able to work with her.
That's excellent. And I love that people are still creating new things, that people haven't given up thinking that it's all been done already, because a lot has been done. I'm sure there's things that haven't been done yet, but it's also about finding creative new ways to do old things. And I love that people are still out there, giving it a shot and putting themselves out there, because it can be difficult, like we were talking earlier, to put yourself on the line and say, I'm willing to show myself. I'm scared of what the response is going to be, but I'm going to do it.
As I mentioned before, actually, there were times in my life when I was kind of pretty much aware of what people say and how people are going to look at it and pursue it. And it was not getting to me anywhere because I was, I would say, codependent on their opinion. Usually we use the word codependent towards a relationship, but I'm saying codependent on opinion of other friends. But after all, at the end of the day, they are not the one who pay my bill, or they are not the one who are going to make me happy or unhappy, or actually support me during my happy or not so happy hours, right?
Right, true.
So if you're a good friend of mine, what I would encourage you, like if you think I'm doing something wrong, have a constructive conversation with me. Don't say like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
Tell me what you think is not so good and how, in your opinion, you would like to see better. And if it's worth my while, then probably I will learn from it.
Sure.
So that's how I look at it. But I don't, I would not say it would be very, very, probably cocky or ignorant to say that I don't care what people say. Yes, I do. But I surround myself with positive people. Because if you don't see what I do and how, or actually why I do it, then you just can sit and watch whether or not I will succeed. But you don't get to be part of my support team. And I have a great support team.
I think that's it. I think the word support is important because you can just come out and say, hey, you shouldn't be posting that. Or you can come out and say, I thought this post was interesting because does that really follow your brand? Or you can find a nice way to say the same thing that's going to be supportive and open up a dialogue versus if you're just going to yell at me, I'm probably going to shut down or ignore what you're saying because of your approach, and that's so important. But I think that, I think artists, a lot of times what they're looking for is validation that the stuff that they're creating, that they feel is good, that other people feel is good too. And I can understand there being that sort of codependency sort of mentality, because we want to know that the things that we enjoy, that someone else does too. And a lot of times we don't find out.
Exactly.
In fact, it's been through doing this show and doing some research for another project that I found out that there's a lot of people that listen to my music that I didn't know ever even listened, and that they enjoy it. And some of them listen to like my relaxation stuff. They listen to it every night. I would have never known because no one reaches out and tells the artist.
Mm-hmm.
So it is nice. But, I think that the biggest challenge I have, and this is the last question I have for you, is I feel like there's so many things that I have going on and so many projects within each of those channels that my biggest fear is not having enough time in the rest of my life to produce everything. Is that something that you experience with all your channels as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes, which is interesting, a friend of mine, she said, like, oh, you cannot advertise yourself that you're doing photography, PR, website, and whatever else you're doing, because people are going to start thinking of you that you are, what they call, jack of all trades and master of none.
Right.
And I'm saying, possibly some of them will, but maybe others will see that I am a really creative person, and I have just different facets of my creativity, that's all. And how can I don't know, I kind of see the one from another.
Yeah.
Like, just because I'm doing photography, I shouldn't be investing myself in writing.
Right.
No, it's just different channels to channel my creativity. I hope I'm creative enough.
Oh, I think so. But I think there's an advantage to having multiple outlets too, because if let's say that you're working on a website and you've spent a lot of hours on it, it's just, you're not quite finding exactly what you want for it, and it's starting to get frustrating. You can go out and work on a picture that you're doing. You can start doing the film. I mean, it's nice to be able to have different things to bounce from, because the train doesn't always run smoothly on the track for every project from beginning to end. There's going to be times it slows down or is low on fuel, and it's good to be able to stay fresh and bounce back and forth. I find that as an advantage myself.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been such a pleasure to catch up with you, and I love all these different outlets you have. I'm so excited for your gallery showing and for these new projects that are coming out. I admire the hell out of how hard you work and the quality of the things that you put into the world. I think you're doing fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me. It was quite an honor, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity just to chat with you and share with you my thoughts and get a little bit encouraging validation. That's quite an honor. Quite an honor.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and definitely, keep us posted. Let us know when the gallery showing is, and let us know when the releases are coming out.
Well, I will. Hopefully, that would be the reason for you to come down here.
There you go. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
That's right.
You never know.
Well, thank you, Tatiana. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm wishing you all the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I really love that diversity, to have so many different things that you can do. And I feel very similar when I'm working on one project and things are getting stale or I'm not quite sure what to do next. It's nice to be able to take that creative energy, because you still want to create something, and just harness it and move it to something else. What a great time. I really adore Tatiana, and I'm really glad that she was able to come on the show, and look forward to some more stuff with her. We're going to talk to Rodney about coming on the show, and some other people, so should be fun. But in the meantime, thank you for joining me for episode 46. Please remember to like the Facebook page, and you'll be put in a drawing for the Mental Sauna flash drive that I give away every month. So have a great week, and we'll see you next week with another episode of the HaskinCast Podcast.